Hello, my name is Sandra, and on my birthday, my husband smiled at me, raised a glass, and tried to poison me. I didn't drink it. I switched the glasses. That night was supposed to be special. Instead, it was the first thread that unraveled everything. Fake medical files, a forged diagnosis, betrayal from his best friend, and even his mother calling me dangerous on national TV. He didn't just lie. He built a whole story to erase mine. And yet, I'm still here. I fought back. I exposed them all. My 42nd birthday was supposed to be a celebration of love, not a performance in survival. The parlor was humming with soft jazz, polished silverware, and quiet laughter. Candlelight flickered across the tablecloth, and beyond the tall windows, Charlotte's skyline sparkled like a stage backdrop. Wesley reached across the table, poured my wine, and smiled like nothing had changed. But everything had. He looked too polished tonight, his navy blazer, his Rolex, the way he said, "Happy birthday, sweetheart," with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. It used to. That smile once melted every doubt in me. Lately, it froze them. We clinked glasses. "To you, Sandra," he said. My fingers tightened around the stem. Something in his voice felt rehearsed, like he was playing a part he no longer enjoyed. As he raised his glass, I caught a strange flick of movement. Wesley had adjusted my glass before I sat down. Quick, deliberate, almost too quick. My stomach clenched. Maybe it was just nerves. Or maybe it was the way he'd been acting the last few weeks. Distant, jittery, whispering on phone calls when he thought I was asleep. The wine sat untouched between us. Dark red, smooth. He watched me. I watched the wine. A young waitress leaned in politely. "Excuse me, ma'am," she murmured. "Could I have a moment, privately?" Wesley raised an eyebrow but didn't question it. I followed her past the bar, heels clicking against tile, heart slamming against my ribs. We stopped near the hallway leading to the restrooms. She looked maybe 20, braid tight, eyes wide. "My name's Tamika," she whispered, glancing around. "I shouldn't be saying this, but I saw your husband. He put something in your glass." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "I was at the bar. He poured from a small vial into your wine while you were texting. I didn't know what to do. I almost didn't say anything, but it looked wrong. Really wrong." Tamika's hands trembled. I'd want someone to tell me if it was me. My breath caught. It felt absurd, like a bad TV plot. Wesley? Poisoning me? He wasn't perfect, sure. He'd become evasive, maybe even cold. But this? Still, her fear was raw. Not dramatic. Genuine. I thought back to the hush-hush call at 2 a.m., the late-night meetings, the sudden interest in my firm's finances. Wesley wasn't who he used to be. "Thank you," I said, steadying my voice. Back at the table, I sat with a smile like armor. He leaned in again. "You okay?" I nodded, fake laughing. "This wine's too good to rush," I said. He chuckled and turned to his phone. That's when I swapped our glasses, subtle, fluid, like I'd done it 100 times. A stretch of the arm, a casual nudge. Now his was in front of me, mine in front of him. He never noticed. He lifted the glass again. "To you, Sandra." And I watched him drink. The glass was still on the table when he slumped forward, chest heaving like he couldn't breathe. Gasps rippled across the room as I stood, calm but alert. I reached for the napkin, careful and calculated, and wrapped it tightly around the stem of my glass, the one he'd meant for me. I slipped it into my purse just before the manager rushed over. "Is he okay?" someone asked. "I don't know," I answered, my voice low but steady. I didn't move to help him. I watched. The ambulance came fast. Everything after that was flashing lights, forms, questions I didn't answer. I told the EMTs he'd had wine and seemed to react badly, and I rode in the front seat to the ER without a word more. In the waiting room, the cheap fluorescent lights buzzed like a warning. I sat alone as Wesley was wheeled into a curtained bay, surrounded by medical staff trying to save the man who had tried to poison me. Tamika appeared 15 minutes later, her apron gone, wearing a hoodie and jeans. She walked toward me like she was afraid to be seen. "You came," I said. "I couldn't just go home," she whispered, sitting beside me. "You okay?" "I don't know," I replied, clutching my purse. "But you might have saved my life." She nodded once. Then I stood and approached the front desk. The nurse blinked when I asked if I could speak to a police officer. 10 minutes later, a female detective in plain clothes walked in. Her name was Carla Rogers. Tall, no-nonsense, hair pulled tight. She gestured to a private area just past the vending machines. Tamika followed me. I handed over the napkin-wrapped glass like it was a ticking bomb. "This was supposed to be mine," I told her, but I switched it. My husband drank it instead. Tamika gave her statement. I could see Detective Rogers' eyes narrow as she took notes, piecing it together like a puzzle she'd solved before. "We'll send this in for testing immediately," she said, securing the glass. "And I'll pull the restaurant's security footage. Don't worry. If he did something, we'll find it." She gave me her card and promised to call in the morning. Tamika hugged me, tight, brief, and then left without another word. It was nearly 4 a.m. when I finally got home. The condo felt colder than usual, too quiet. I didn't bother turning on the lights. I just dropped my purse on the table, kicked off my shoes, and stared out the window. He meant to drug me. Why? My phone rang at 7:43 a.m. I hadn't slept a second. "Mrs. Harper?" said the voice on the other end, calm and clipped. "Detective Rogers. We reviewed the footage. I think you need to come in." By 9 a.m., I was sitting in a narrow interview room at the Charlotte Police Department. A monitor on the wall played muted footage from the restaurant. There he was, Wesley, glancing over his shoulder, eyes darting, pulling something small and silver from his jacket. A vial. Clear. He tilted it over my glass and gave a flick of his wrist. Seconds later, Tamika entered the frame in the background. The timestamp matched. It was undeniable. "That qualifies as criminal tampering with intent to cause harm," Rogers said. "Depending on the test results, it could go further." I said nothing for a long moment. Then I asked, "Do you think this was the first time he's tried something like this?" Rogers gave me a look I couldn't read. "Do you?" That night at the condo, I didn't rest. I couldn't. Instead, I called Gloria Penn, my old friend, and more importantly, my attorney. "I need you," I said, "and not just for divorce." Gloria didn't ask questions. She just told me to come by her office the next morning. I hung up and stood in front of Wesley's desk. It had always been locked, but I knew where he kept the key. I opened the top drawer slowly. Inside was a red folder with my name on it. I pulled the folder out slowly, the weight of it unnatural in my hands. The red cover wasn't labeled in any way, just clean and ominous. I set it down on Wesley's desk, heart thrumming beneath my skin, then opened it. The first page hit like a slap. "Legal backups," it read. The second? "Cognitive assessment, Sandra Harper." There it was, my name, a bold header. Underneath, a letterhead I didn't recognize. Dr. William Tannard, board-certified psychiatrist. The words felt sticky, unreal. Preliminary diagnosis, early onset cognitive decline. I blinked. Once, twice. The room didn't shift, but everything inside me did. It listed symptoms: forgetfulness, paranoia, disorganized thinking, dates I never remembered, an online consultation I never had, a signature, typed, not inked, and a notary seal I'd never seen before in my life. I flipped through the rest, emails printed out, subject lines like "Next Steps Guardianship" and bank cosign forms. My breath snagged. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was strategy. Wesley hadn't planned to kill me. He planned to replace me. Maybe the wine was plan B, because plan A was power of attorney. I thought back to all those casual comments. "You're forgetting a lot lately. Maybe I should manage the bills. Let me handle the bank stuff, baby." It hadn't felt right then. Now, it felt calculated. What disturbed me most was how reasonable it all looked. It was designed to be believed. "Smart," I whispered to the empty room, "but not smart enough." I kept going. Attached was a guardianship draft petition. His name as petitioner. My supposed incapacity detailed in cold bullet points. He was trying to declare me unfit, strip me of everything, legally, publicly, permanently. I slammed the folder shut. There was no more doubt. Wesley wasn't acting impulsively. He'd built this for weeks, maybe longer. I grabbed my phone. Gloria answered on the first ring. "We're past divorce," I said, voice clear. "This is war." "I'll clear my afternoon," she replied. "Bring the whole thing." I hung up. My pulse slowed, then quickened again. because something gnawed at me. Wesley wouldn't leave this folder out, not if he thought I'd be alone here. I glanced around the room. That's when I noticed the second phone, his old work cell, plugged in and blinking on the floor. It had a missed call. From Tom. I stared at the blinking screen for a second longer, then shut the drawer. Tom. Wesley's oldest friend, his golf buddy, legal advisor, best man at our wedding. The kind of man who toasted loyalty, but billed you by the hour. By the time I reached Gloria's office downtown, the humidity outside was thick enough to choke. I stepped inside the cool, glassy lobby and rode the elevator up, folder clutched like it could bite. When I opened the door to her suite, there he was. Tom, sitting on Gloria's sofa like he belonged there, grinning at something she'd just said. "Sandra!" Gloria stood and waved me in. Tom was just dropping off a motion for another client. Total coincidence. Tom turned, all polished charm. "Sandra, you look... well." "I don't feel it," I said, matching his fake smile with one of my own. We exchanged a few pleasantries while I handed Gloria the red folder. I kept one eye on Tom, who didn't seem to notice, or maybe pretended not to. As Gloria flipped through the forged medical report, something caught my eye. At the corner of one document, barely visible, were faint handwritten initials. T.S. My spine stiffened. I glanced up just as Tom reached for a bottled water, his wedding band glinting under the light. Calm. Too calm. "Tom," I said lightly, "do you know a Dr. William Tannard?" He paused, bottle half twisted. "Name rings a bell. Why?" "Just wondering," I replied, folding my arms. "He seems to think I have early onset dementia." Gloria's eyes darted up. Tom laughed too fast. "That must be a mistake." I leaned forward, pulled out the sheet with his initials, and laid it flat on the table. "Then explain this." Tom's smile faltered. "Look, sometimes Wesley asks for help drafting legal formats. I didn't. This wasn't meant to be used." "You thought it wouldn't matter because no one would see it," I said, cold now. "Because I'd be out of the picture." Gloria stood slowly, pressing her lips into a tight line. "Tom," she said, voice thin, "you need to leave." He looked between us, betrayed by the very people who used to trust him. He mumbled something about misunderstandings and walked out without meeting my eyes. I turned to Gloria. "From this point on, you can't speak to him again, not even for brunch or a golf game." "You have my word," she said, jaw clenched. I tucked the folder back into my bag and exhaled. This wasn't about Wesley anymore. This was about every person who stood behind him. I left Gloria's office with the weight of war pressing behind my eyes. My phone buzzed before I even reached the parking garage. It was Michelle, my assistant. "Turn on Channel 5, now." I didn't ask why. I opened the local news app and saw the headline. Exclusive, Wesley Creighton's mother speaks out. On screen was Ba Creighton, sitting primly in her Sunday best, eyes red-rimmed but dry. The reporter fed her the cue. "She says her daughter-in-law has been showing signs of emotional instability, possibly paranoia." "I'm scared for my son," Ba Creighton said, her voice trembling. "Sandra isn't well. She needs help, not handcuffs." I stood in the parking lot, the world turning to static. My hands went cold. Within the hour, hashtags trended. #FreeWesley, #Protect the Creightons. Old photos of me at charity events, cropped and twisted, resurfaced. I hadn't even left the city, yet the court of public opinion had already condemned me. My inbox was flooded. "You're a fraud." "You heard him, didn't you?" One even called me a gold digger, a laughable insult given I made more than Wesley ever did. Then came the leaked footage, grainy from a distance, showing me leaving the restaurant. The angle made it look like I was fleeing, like I had something to hide. I slammed the condo door behind me and sat on the floor, my back against the wall. "Don't let them control the narrative," Gloria had said earlier. "Stay silent. We'll win this in court." But my business was bleeding. Clients emailed in concern. A few had already paused retainers. I couldn't stay silent. That night, I filmed a short video in my living room. No makeup, no tears, just truth. I am cooperating fully with the police. I won't respond to slander, but I will say this. No one gets to rewrite my life while I'm still living it. The next morning, I sent Wesley's attorney a cease and desist. Attached was a message I knew would reach him. "If you push this further, I'll bring it all out. Your lies, your files, your friends. Choose carefully." The day after I released my video, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a voicemail. No caller ID. Miss Sandra, it's Tamika. Someone came by the diner. They asked if I was here legally. They said they had documents. I think I'm being watched. I froze. Wesley had decided if he couldn't discredit me directly, he'd poison the roots beneath me. Tamika was the only witness brave enough to step forward, and now he was trying to crush her too. I drove out to her apartment that afternoon. It was a modest building outside Charlotte, nothing fancy. I found her standing by the mailbox, arms crossed, chin high, but her eyes betrayed her fear. Inside, she showed me an envelope. No return address, no stamp, just her name, and inside, a photocopy of an ICE complaint form, blank, but threatening enough. They left this taped to my door, she said. I looked at her and said, "We can fight this. I'll hire you protection, a lawyer, whatever you need." She shook her head. "If I hide, I lose. He wins. And women like you keep losing too." I didn't know whether to hug her or cry, but I nodded. That night, Tamika went on camera, calm, clear, no tears. "I saw Mr. Creighton drop something into her drink," she said. "I watched him do it. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it wasn't right." The station released the interview at 10 p.m. sharp. By 10:07, the internet had a new hero. Hash believed Tamika. People started seeing through the noise. I saw comments shift. "She's brave. This changes everything." Even a few from Wesley's old supporters admitted they were wrong. By morning, Gloria had filed witness protection paperwork for Tamika, and I sent out a public statement. Tamika spoke when it mattered. We stand by her, and we won't back down. Wesley's team went silent. No new headlines, no more quotes from his lawyer, just stillness. But that night, as I poured myself tea, the phone rang again. It was Gloria. Her voice was tight. "They've moved the hearing up, 48 hours. The courthouse doors swung open with the weight of months behind them. The press lined the sidewalk, microphones raised, camera flashes echoing like gunshots. Gloria kept her hand steady on my elbow, but my legs moved on muscle memory. I wasn't scared, not anymore. Inside, the courtroom buzzed. Curious eyes, half-familiar faces from the news cycle. Then Wesley entered, flanked by his lawyer. Tom, so much for loyalty. Wesley looked thinner, his hair neater, suit sharper, a carefully curated mess designed to say, "I've been suffering too." It was classic Wesley, messaging over meaning. The hearing opened with procedural noise, but when Wesley took the stand, everything shifted. He cleared his throat. "Your Honor," he said, "I never wanted to hurt her. I loved Sandra. I still do." I clenched my jaw. He turned toward me, just slightly. She was my world. If I acted out of desperation, it was because I didn't know how to save us. Somewhere in the room, someone sighed. A juror wiped their eye. It was working. Then came the real hit. Tom produced a flash drive. On it? An alleged voicemail. My voice, trembling, broken, muttering threats of self-harm. I could barely breathe as it played. Except it wasn't me. Gloria stood so quickly her chair scraped back. "We object. That's a deepfake." The judge narrowed his eyes. Recess granted. The tech analyst brought in was clear. "This file has been AI altered, spliced, fabricated." Back in session, Wesley shifted uncomfortably, his act crumbling by the second. During recess, he caught me alone near the hallway window. "This doesn't have to be a war," he said softly. "Let's end this, together, you and me." I met his eyes without blinking. "The woman who would have fallen for that lie? She died the night you drugged me." I turned and walked back to the courtroom. We were almost done, but I wasn't done with him. The gavel hadn't fallen yet, but my words weighed heavier than any verdict. Just before the judge was about to speak, I rose. "Your Honor," I began. "Whatever your sentence, please understand, this is bigger than a marriage gone bad. It's about the way systems protect those who manipulate. It's about people like Tamika who risk everything to do the right thing. I ask not just for justice, but for a warning to anyone who thinks a courtroom is just another game board." The judge nodded, solemn. Then he read the verdict. Wesley, guilty on all counts, attempted poisoning, document forgery, obstruction of justice, 15 years, no parole. He didn't flinch. His jaw tightened, his eyes dull, like the performance had finally run dry. His mother, seated 3 rows behind, let out a whimper. Quiet, but it echoed. Outside, cameras flared again. This time, they caught not just the fall of a man, but the rise of a survivor. 3 days later, I stood behind a podium, beside Tamika, launching Glass Unbroken. The name said it all. This organization will fight for women pushed to silence, I announced. For every Tamika who was told to look away. For every Sandra who almost didn't make it. Tamika smiled beside me, a small, steady kind of pride. By week's end, I signed final papers stepping away from my firm. Gloria took the reins. I walked out of that office not with loss, but with clarity. Now, I live near Lake Lure, a cottage with peeling paint and wild lavender. I plant things that don't ask much. I paint badly. I sleep deeply. No cameras, no courtrooms, no Wesley. I didn't just survive him. I dismantled the machine that built him. The mornings here arrive without alarms, just golden light spilling through linen curtains and the soft trill of birds I still don't know by name. I drink my coffee black now, bitter, honest, no sweeteners, no illusions. That morning I opened my sketchbook on the porch and started with loose lines. Nothing complicated, just movement. Rhythm. My hands no longer shook. The mail came late, as usual. Among catalogs and charity requests was an envelope with familiar handwriting. Wesley's mother. I opened it on the kitchen counter. I didn't know, it read. Maybe I didn't want to, but I regret what happened to you. That's all I can say. There was no apology, but I didn't expect one. Closure isn't something someone gives you. You claim it. I folded the letter once, then slid it into the drawer beside the sink, under takeout menus and receipts. Let the past sit where it belonged. Later that week, Gloria called. Tom had been formally charged. Ethical violations, aiding fraud, perjury. His license was on ice pending full investigation. Wesley hadn't filed an appeal. No surprise. His world had shrunk to a cell and cold metal bars. Maybe that's the first honest thing he's touched in years. Tamika's voice had appeared in a podcast about courtroom justice. She spoke with clarity that couldn't be taught. I sent her flowers. No card. Last Sunday, I drove out to the parlor. I sat at the same table by the window, ordered tea, watched the light bend over the silverware. No one approached me. Good. This week I finished a painting. A wine glass, cracked through but stitched with gold leaf in every fracture. I called it not broken, just rebuilt. I wrapped it carefully, added a short note, and mailed it to the courthouse. For the next woman who stands here, because scars shouldn't be hidden, they should shine. As I sit here with paint-stained fingers and silence I no longer fear, I realize something. Healing doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for truth. If my story reminds you of your own, if you've ever doubted your worth because someone tried to rewrite your reality, hear me now. You are not broken. You are becoming. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes it whispers, you made it. I learned that strength isn't loud. It's choosing peace when rage is easier. It's walking away when staying would be self-betrayal. And it's loving yourself so fiercely that no one else's version of you stands a chance. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever ignored your instincts to keep the peace? Do you believe people can change? Or do we just get better at hiding who we are? Let me know in the comments. I read everyone. If this story moved you, made you think, cry, or breathe deeper, drop a 1 in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from, or if it didn't hit you at all, tell me why. I welcome every voice here. And if you want more stories that challenge, heal, and connect, subscribe to this channel. We're just getting started. See you in the next chapter.